Okay, so today we are here in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, I think. Courmayeur, Italy, sitting right under the amazing Mont Blanc Massif. And we're here to test new product from SCOTT Sports, specifically some skis. Right now, I'm sitting down with Rado from SCOTT. And Rado, would you mind just starting by telling a little bit about your role at SCOTT and how you ended up in that role?
Yeah, so first, thanks for having me here. I mean, it's a really great place to present the products. I have quite a long history, with SCOTT. I started 24 years ago. At this time, it called racing and promotion. Marketing was not even existing like this, and it was kind of the little subsidiary for SCOTT USA at this time. Obviously, we had quite some good decades in the company. We were growing, and I also could make my way through different positions in the company, from the marketing, head of marketing, taking care about the SCOTT brand. Today we have several brands at the SCOTT Sports company with SCOTT, with Dolomite, Bergamont bikes. And there I'm now taking care really about all the marketing, about all the brands. And one of my really deep passion is the winter sport, the skiing. And since 5 years, I'm also taking care about the winter sport division. So that's what I'm doing today.
So I think a lot of people still think of SCOTT as like this American company, when in reality, now you guys are based here in Europe. Can you talk a little bit about the move to Switzerland and how that has affected the company just in general?
We obviously we have really strong roots in the U.S., and I mean we really want to stick to them too. I mean we have a over 6 year history of the brand, and started with all products like poles, goggles in the US. And the US is still for us one of our key markets, and we have still quite a lot of employees also sitting in our office in Salt Lake, and also contributing a lot to the brand. So we see SCOTT today more as an international company. We also don't start to communicate that we are a Swiss or European company. I think we have over 20 different nationalities working at SCOTT. So this gives us also kind of this international flavor into the brand. And I think that's also how we look today at the brand. SCOTT was like until 98 based in the US. Then we had a change of ownership, and a part of the international management team started to take over SCOTT. And then there was also the decision to have the headquarters in Switzerland. But obviously we have in most of our major countries, we have our own subsidiaries. So we really have this kind of international global approach with the brand.
So the new line that we're here to test out is pretty expansive, boots, skis, packs, apparel, goggles. Seems to run kind of the gamut. And it seems nowadays that SCOTT pretty much makes everything that you could imagine in the outdoor industry. How has it been to navigate such an expansive product space that covers just about everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. SCOTT is really involved in many different sports, and also when we start to go into a sport, we take it really serious. So we have, I think this is in the SCOTT history and in our roots, that we always look for new opportunities, and we also try to evolve. So we started with ski poles, and then we added goggles. Then we start to go into cycling. Obviously, we saw that today as just a brand focusing on one product group, I think it's becoming very difficult to survive in this market environment. As well, we always had we followed a little bit our passion. We started to do products what we like to do, where we have also the knowledge, where we have people which are really deep into the products. Like we have professional cyclists, we have pro skiers, pro moto sport guys, taking care about product development, about brand management. And I think this is really at the end what's key, to be also authentic and to make sure that you can deliver the products which are really on the highest standards. And I think there at Scott, we always followed our mission with innovation, technology, design. So we always put the product in front. For us, this was always kind of the starting point. We tried to find a better solution how to do a product. We tried to find new innovations. We tried to find also, giving reasons why to do the sport, why to use these products. And I think this was kind of a strategy which really worked very well. I think there's also another aspect, I think, which today is quite important also to be business-wise successfully. With this product portfolio, we can cover the whole year round. We are not just only in winter sport or in summer sport. We are independent from seasonalities. We are independent from geographically. I mean, with running shoes, with cycling, you can go also to countries which don't have mountains. So I think this is also for sure a reason which helped us a lot to grow the company in the past 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me how expansive the brand is. I mean, the first road bike I ever owned was a Scott road bike, and I now using Scott skis to traverse glaciers and wearing Scott eyewear to protect my eyes and all these things. I think there are very few companies out there doing as much as you guys are. In terms of breadth of equipment. Do you see that? I mean, I think you kind of touched on this, but do you see that more as a business strategy decision, or is it more like you want to have a hand in all of these different things that you guys love to do?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I mean, to stay in business, you always need to have a business strategy, obviously. On the other hand, I have to say there's a lot of today's brand structure and strategy is based on our CEO's vision. Beat Zaug, he's involved with the company for over 30 years, and he was really driving kind of this strategy to start new products, to start new sports, to always go further. I mean, he is such a passionate person and so much also personally involved into the sport. And I think for him, kind of the business is not always his first thought. I think sometimes he's also really a risk taker and says, "Hey, guys, let's go for it." I mean, he really also motivates us all the time. If there are projects which are super innovative but really also risky, he never minds that we go forward, that we explore, that we also try to find new solutions in products. And I think this became really to a company culture.
Yeah.
And helps to drive us also forward. And I think it's not that we feel we can do everything. I think there we always stick clearly to sports, with cycling, with winter sports, skiing, running and motorcycle, where we have really our roots, where we also have a deep knowledge. For us, it was never a question to go into, let's say, for example, golf or something which was a trend or sometimes a demand, but we don't have kind of a passion, or we don't have really deep understanding of the sport. So there we have really kind of clearly also our limits where we want to go with the brand.
So it seems like the next logical step, or the next logical product for you guys to make, in my eyes at least, are ski touring bindings. Are we ever going to see a Scott ski touring binding?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's actually something we looked quite deeply into it. I mean, we look always for new opportunities. On the other side, we also try to be quite realistic. What can we do? What we can really bring something new to the market. I mean, it would be kind of easy to take an existing binding and rebrand this, but this is not at all the Scott strategy. So just to do a product, I think there we don't really see the strategy and the sense also for Scott. So of course we like to have complete product portfolios, but so far there is no real strategy in this direction. So at least you won't see it this year and you won't see it next year.
Okay. So that's interesting. That kind of is a little bit illuminating of the way you guys see the binding market because I think there's kind of two main things going on in bindings right now. Obviously, there's these charging Solomon Shift, Marker Tecton, Marker Tecton, Freechty Tecton rather. This new Duke PT for Marker next year. There's that category, and then there's the pin category. And so it seems like from your guys' perspective that pin category is more or less saturated or perfected. Would you say that?
I mean, for sure, we believe into this pin binding market. I think we see there really that this evolved a lot in the past 5 years, and it made it more accessible for consumers, also for a broader consumer base. For example, with the Fritchie Tecton adding some safety into it, I think that's something we really like to see because this makes also pin bindings more accessible for a broader audience. What we also see is kind of you need a lot of know-how to do bindings. I think you need a lot of it's a very technical product. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of certifications needed. So we're also there a little bit realistic, about what can we do, and also is there something we could do better than the others? And I think there today we clearly prefer to focus on those products which we have. I can believe, when the comfort, and I think the comfort is always connected between binding and the shoe, is continuing to go in this direction. What we saw already in the past years, starting with the boots, having rubbers on the sole, having the comfort of a walking mechanism, having the step-in comfort, which was for many years a little bit kind of an issue, and which probably also kept people away from pin bindings. I mean, when we see there still kind of an evolution, I believe the pin binding market can still growing also in the future. And generally, this comes also with the trend that people want to have the option to walk sometimes, to have the option to do kind of a ski touring, to do ski mode, to all these different varieties what we see today in the touring segment. And I think this is for us still a segment we believe also can grow in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that outlook because I feel like a lot of companies are going into these various segments just to have that complete product portfolio rather than really adding something to the market. I mean, there are a lot of pin bindings out there that are basically essentially the same as their neighbor. So yeah, I appreciate that outlook from Scott. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the new line of stuff. Like we talked about, it's pretty expansive. It's apparel, it's skis, it's boots, it's airbags. Can you talk a little bit about the motivation behind creating this new line and some of the things that you wanted to improve on from previous iterations of these products?
So, there probably I hear there are two questions. I mean, one is there's always an investment behind, and I think that comes back to the culture and the strategy of the management in the company. And I think this was always, open to invest into new products. I think that's what we believe in. That's also kind of what drives the company. So I think there we never really hold back on to invest into new products to really look for better details and solutions. On the other side, I think we shifted the I'm talking now especially specifically about the winter sport collection more into this whole touring, free skiing, free riding, free touring. I mean, there's a lot of combinations you can do where we see still a strong market, where we see people really investing into products. It's not only a rental market, but also, where people are really also interested about technology, about innovation, about products. I think when you use your gear for ski touring, you definitely have a different need and a different demand on a product than if you just go for a day rental skiing. And I think that's something we definitely see also as an opportunity for SCOTT.
So, specifically to the new line, there's a lot of focus on that kind of free touring aspect. It seems like, is that a market that you see? Because obviously in North America, we've seen this market, growing and perhaps peaked already. Like it's very much a thing, but it seems to be sort of a burgeoning market here in Europe. Would you characterize that as true?
Yeah, it's. I'm not sure if it's peaked or not. We saw also in the past 10, 15 years that this was really a growing market. I still believe even when the market is not anymore so fast growing, but if you come out with strong products, with really innovative products, there's always a market for a brand. So we don't have there any problem to be in competition with other brands, and also fight for some market share. I think at the end of the day, there is almost all sport markets are somehow saturated, and there is a kind of a competition going on. And I think at the end of the day, also a lot of innovation and product development helps to develop or to gain some market share.
Well, we're going to go a little bit in depth into the product itself, but we're going to bring in the direct product manager for the lines, I think, for that. So thank you so much for your time, Rado. And I think we're going to tag team swap out here now.
Yeah, thanks also from our side. It was really good to have you here, and also to give you an in-depth view behind the scene of SCOTT, and give you kind of the opportunity also to test our products and experience this in probably one of the nicest mountains what we can offer here in Europe.
Well, yeah, and thank you for having me. These mountains never cease to just absolutely blow my mind and inspire and keep me up at night, and all the things that really special experiences do. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But let's dive into some skis. Great. So now we have from SCOTT, the ski product manager, right? That's your title. Franz Marsan.
Hello.
Right?
Yeah.
Did I do okay with that?
Perfect.
I don't speak French.
No problem. I will do my best in English.
Good. We appreciate it. But let's talk skis a little bit. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but at Blister, we about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, a little while back, we did a podcast where we all talked about our least favorite gear, the gear that we like the least. And one of the pieces of gear that I talked about was, and I'm sorry to say, the old version of the SuperGuide, the SuperGuide 105, the yellow one. I really, really did not get along well with that ski. And so I was really excited to come out here and try the new skis and see what you guys came up with. And I have to say, like, initial impressions, I've skied the ski now 4 days, 4 pretty long days. Like, I've got a lot of time on it. I'm pretty impressed. So I want to kind of talk about the things that you've done to change the ski, the strategies behind that for you guys, and just kind of dive into some of the details on the ski. And if we have time, maybe we'll talk about like boots or I don't know, some other boring things.
Yeah, sounds good.
That aren't skis. So the first thing that really strikes me about this ski is the weight. So the SuperGuide 105, the previous version of the ski, we measured at, let me make sure I get this right, average of 1564 grams, 1564 grams per ski. And the new ski, granted, I haven't weighed it for all those Blisters aficionados. We will get a pair and we will weigh it flat. But the catalog weight for you guys that you're listening is 1610 grams, so about 50 grams heavier. Can you talk a little bit about the motivation behind adding a little bit of weight to it, and where that weight was actually added in the ski, or how that weight was added into the ski?
Okay, so when we start developing these new skis, we get feedbacks from athletes, from Press Magazine, and also the user that are using the ski. And one thing that was missing a bit in that ski, it was a bit of length. So also the length change. So that's one reason that the weight changed.
Right. So it went from, the old one was 183, right?
Yeah.
And the new long length is 185.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we adjust the dimension of the ski. So that's one reason that the ski is not lighter or a bit heavier, but also a lot of different elements change into the ski. But we were not like focusing of going more a lot lighter than the previous version. Our goal was really like you have felt that during that day in Courmayeur that we have committed athletes and guides and they really want something that perform. So the weight was not the main target of this new development. So we define the shape, we define the material, but we were not like, okay, we need to do something lighter than the previous one. We need something that perform well, and we were not like focusing on the weight of the ski, but much more on the performance.
Excellent. So it strikes me just when you see the ski, the first thing that you see, there's a big difference in the way that the ski looks. The old ski had this like large kind of elliptical shape on the top and a kind of narrow side cut, and the current ski, the new it's called the Freetour.
Exactly, yeah.
The new Freetour feels much more like a traditional sandwich construction. You know, it's a full height sidewall, the whole length, and there's much less of this elliptical shape. How did you guys make that decision to move sort of away from that kind of unique construction that you used to have into the more traditional construction of the ski now?
Yeah, so the goal with for sure, there is benefits with this elliptical construction in terms of weight reduction and swing weight a little bit, but you are decreasing the sidewall height of the ski, and sometimes you are losing a bit of control or power or transmission with a lower sidewall. So with this new generation, we want to really focus at the ski perform well in hard snow. That's ski designated for alpine skiing, steep couloir also, and we need a perfect power transmission into the edges. So we were like, okay, we need to increase the sidewall. So let's reduce the elliptical volume of the ski. I think the ski looks like more stable at the same time, and with still a little bit of elliptical on the side, but less than before, yeah. So the focus was really into the performance of the ski, and the design should give this precision to the ski with a higher sidewall.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So I got to ski the ski a few days before talking to anyone at Scott or getting a product rundown or anything. I just picked the ski up and we went to go ski some big mountains in Switzerland, a few valleys over. And so the first thing is the pair of skis that I got was mounted with marker kingpins, which is a pretty burly touring binding. But I was kind of shocked when I found out the weight you guys are claiming, that 1610 weight, because the ski feels heavier to me. And that's a compliment.
Yeah.
The ski feels, I mean, before we got here in Courmayeur, I was guessing about 1700 grams in my head. It felt like about 1700. It's because the suspension of the ski is really impressive. And that's something that we don't really have often in the touring world. Like usually a lightweight ski is pretty light, and a heavy ski is better, and ski's heavy. How did you guys approach the suspension of the ski to create what I think is a pretty big leap from the old version that didn't feel heavy at all? You know, definitely there was a lot of feedback, and it was nervous feeling and things like that, to this new ski that really does ski pretty heavy for its weight.
Yeah, so like we changed really the wood core, and for me that's really the motor of the ski. There's a lot of elements of the skiability of the ski is coming from the core, and here we switch from a pure Polovnia wood core construction to a new wood core construction where we mix beech. That's one of the stronger wood that is using in the ski industry, with 3 slices, so very small, it's almost 2 millimeters all along the wood core, and this really bring energy and power to the ski. We try like with different, at the beginning we start with 5 slices, but we got a ski that was a bit too stiff and feel too heavy with not enough response. So that's really like a process when you learn step after step. But this good mix of wood, I think that's where coming from the stability and the power of the ski.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Another reason I think that the old ski felt so kind of chattery and harsh was because it was so stiff. That old ski was incredibly stiff. It was one of the stiffest touring skis, if not the stiffest touring ski we've ever tested at Blister. And the new ski is still pretty stout. There's some strength to it. You can push the ski pretty hard, but it's nowhere near as stiff, especially in the tips and tails. Is stiffness something that you guys think about in relation to suspension? Because it's something that we see that softer skis tend to have better suspension than stiffer skis, weight for weight.
Another big evolution we did between the old and the new Superguide is carbon fiber. Before we are using the carbon matrix fibers. That's really makes the ski very stiff, very stable, but you don't get a lot of responsiveness with that kind of fibers.
So when you say a matrix, is this that kind of cross-hatching pattern that you could see through the top sheet, like basically stringers running at 45 degrees?
Exactly.
Yep.
And on this new version, we go back to pure carbon stringers. And when we compare these two kind of fibers, we really have like very two kind of different scalability, and like the ski feel much more alive when we are using this new fiber. So like when you develop skis, it's always evolution, comparison between different versions. And I think that's also a reason that the ski have a very different scalability compared to the old one, is this switch from carbon matrix, 45 degrees, to carbon stringers.
So that's really interesting. So I'm a mechanical engineer, and thinking about the way those stringers are going through the ski, one of the things that strikes me is when you go with longitudinal traditional stringers versus this sort of matrix-like pattern of the old ski, it seems like you're going to get less torsional stiffness. And we test a lot of skis, and one of the things that I've kind of like, that I've hypothesized, and we ski a lot of skis that feel this way, is that the less torsional stiffness of a ski that a ski has, the better the suspension is, right? Like if a ski is really torsionally stiff, it can feel incredibly harsh and unforgiving and kind of punishing and demanding. So especially in touring skis, I tend to like skis that I think have a little bit less torsional stability. Is that something that you guys see change between these two skis?
So I'm not an engineer mechanical, so I will not make like a pure argument on this. But that's something we feel when we make a test comparison. So really, like the first proto, we say, okay, let's keep the same construction, just switch the carbon fibers, and we have like really a different feelings. What's really specific when you develop skis is all the theory are not working perfectly. Like you have like a lot of sensibility when you develop skis, feelings, and there is a lot of good ski on the market, but for different, we are a lot of different consumer. We have a lot of different levels. So everyone has his own opinion about each skis, and that's really the beauty when you develop skis. And I think as you were saying, like a bit less torsional rigidity into the ski makes the ski a bit with more suspension, a bit more control, and that's something I think it's a good direction and a good evolution for our products.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it.
That's good.
And it's been good because we've been skiing some pretty bad snow. So to have a little bit better suspension out of the ski these past few days has been important.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I also have really been appreciating about this new ski, it's something I didn't really understand about the old ski. Maybe you can help explain a little bit of this, is the Sidecut radius. So you guys are calling it, correct me if I'm wrong, you're calling it the same kind of idea, this 3D Sidecut radius. Can you explain kind of what that concept means and how the Sidecut has changed between the old ski and the current ski, or the new ski rather?
So during like 15 years, there was an iconic product manager at Scott, Hervé Manin, who died 2 years ago. And he was really like the man behind all the Scott ski collection. And he was developing this 3D Sidecuts. And this was made for like a shorter radius under the feet and a bit longer on the front and on the tail of the ski to get a bit more versatility. That's something like we got the feeling that's not very easy to understand, but like working on the Sidecut of the ski can bring a lot of different skiability and versatility into the product. So this is something we have in our ski DNA. That's something we want to stick for because let's make a Scott ski a bit different from the other of the market. So we make an evolution compared to the old one and the new one, with still having a longer radius under the feet, shorter radius under the feet, sorry, a bit longer on the tip and the tail, but we really pay a lot of attention during those transmission or transition between shorter and longer radius. When you are on the edge, you have kind of different. You can be slow on the edge, so you are more using the tip and the tail side cuts, or when you have more power or you are going more into the snow, you are more into the short radius that you have under the feet. And like spending time of having very smooth transition give versatility to the ski. So it's something we have in our cahier des charges, so tech files when we develop skis, because we want to stick to this kind of SCOTT scalability and SCOTT performance. And we adjust them a little bit to have something, I would say, not to reduce this different radius, but to have something that is really smooth in between those three radius that we have on the ski when we design it.
Okay, so one of the things that when you just look at the skis, you would compare them side by side, is the taper, specifically in the tip. There's a considerable amount more taper in the new Freetour. Granted, that comes with the huge caveat that the old Superguide had almost no tip taper at all. Do you see the tip shape and the tip taper along with the tail shape as are those things that you design in concert with the side cut of the ski, or do those things kind of end up independent and mesh together in a different way?
Yeah, so with the 105 underfoot, you are more targeting to ski in powder. So the taper is really helping you to be able to bring your ski in the direction you want. If you have a very less taper, like the tip is kind of heavy on the snow, you have big pressure, and it's like not so easy to have good maneuverability of your ski. So yeah, adding some taper on the ski, it's really smooth. It's not something we are like a 5-dimension side cut with a lot of taper, but that's bring for me more maneuverability into the powder, and that makes the ski more fun to ski for that kind of product with an 05 underfoot.
In the old ski, the lack of taper really was kind of a challenge a lot of times. One of the things that we see, especially in a ski that had a traditional mount point and that was relatively long in a over 180 length, you have a lot of torque out there when like something hits the edge way out in front of your binding, right? So the ski had like this kind of tendency to hook up a little bit, right? Like if you hit like a patch of snow out there or whatever, like that tip really wanted to engage because it didn't have any taper. And the new ski feels a lot more comfortable in funky variable snow, which we've skied a lot of in the past few days. So I do think that's an overall improvement.
Yeah. So when we are speaking with Sam Cohen, one of our athletes, he was always removing the edge on the old ski on the tip to have this like taper effect.
Yeah.
So we say, okay, we will not ask our consumer to remove the edge on the tip. That's not what we want. So that's where it comes from a little bit. And I think that like if you feel the benefits of it, we are happy to hear it.
Well, we've been skiing with Sam for the past few days, and yeah, I think he likes the new skis. He didn't take the edge out of the tip. It looks to be intact. So
that's good.
The other thing that's really, I don't want to say that it's unique in the market for the new Freetour, but it's not the norm for this width class, is the camber profile that you guys have. The ski has very little tip and tail rocker compared to a lot of other skis in this 105-ish range width class. And in that sense, I do think that, this is going to be a much more confidence-inspiring ski on firm snow and, like shallower variable snow. But can you talk a little bit about why you guys didn't put a lot of rocker in the tip or tail of the Freetour 105?
We have the chance to have different ski ranges. So we have our freeride family, the Squapper skis, where we have a lot of tip and tail rocker, and we don't want to offer like very similar products. So those Superguide family is like much more mountaineering orienting. So a bit more, we want to have a bit more grip and comfort, stability. And for those who enjoy something more playful, we have our Squapper line. So we have like 2 different options, and we will not do the same ski, like just do a Squapper with a Superguide name on it. That's not our goal. And we have been spending a lot of time to compare still the Squapper family with a lot of competitors and with athletes, with guides, and they are super happy to have different kind of products, and that makes the ski complementary in our offer. So that's why we have not been going from a classic Camber and flat tail and slightly walker in the front from the Superguide family to something too close to our Squapper family.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So although I haven't gotten to ski the Superguide 95, the new one, can you talk a little bit about that ski? Because I think our listeners will be very curious to hear about the narrower ski, because for me, honestly, a ski of this shape and the way that it feels probably makes more sense as like a mountaineering ski, and that 95 width, I think a lot of people will jive with that pretty well. Can you talk a little bit about the Superguide 95 in comparison to the 105?
Yeah, so for sure the width is very different, and also we changed the radius to have some smaller radius underfoot. So on Superguide Freetour we are at 24, and Superguide 95 21, so something a bit more versatile, maybe much easier to turn around. And what we have really identified specifically in Europe is that the guy who were before buying like a touring ski just for touring, now they are using that pair of ski to also go to resort and to have like a one ski setup a bit. And so we really wanted with that ski to be able to ski any kind of snow, and also to be very agile on slope and fun to ski with this stability. Before, like touring ski were always too light to go on slope. I think with this Superguide ski 95, you have one ski to enjoy the mountain even in resort and touring, couloir. That's really what we were looking for. A 105 is something a bit wider for better skiers to go also into powder. It's another audience for us a little bit.
And just for people who are curious listening, the Superguide 95 in a 184 length is coming in at 1,500 grams per your guys' claimed weight. We'll probably get we'll get a ski. We'll measure the crap out of it like we always do. But that's coming in at a pretty competitive weight for some other skis that we really like in this category. Like for instance, the Salomon Mountain Explorer 95, which has been kind of, at least at Blister, sort of our comparison ski, our gold standard of excellent skis in this waist category. So I'm excited to get a pair of the 95s back home and go put them head to head against the Mountain Explorer. But we have to wait a few months probably for that back home.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I feel like I should give you a chance to talk a little bit about the boots. Now, unfortunately, you guys don't have a sample size boot for me. I've got little tiny feet and wear a 25. So I haven't worn the new touring boot that you guys have. But do you want to talk a little bit about the ideas behind the boot and what consumers can expect next year when they see it on shelves?
Yeah, so at Scott, we are really happy to launch this new FreeGuide ski boots. It will complete our offer, which is targeting a more free touring segment. This boots is, as all the Scott ski boots, very easy to step in, step out. Like comfort is key for us. Really, when we step into the boots, it's like as easy to step in as a back entry ski boots. That's something like
that's a strong claim. That's a strong claim.
yeah, but like all the guys who have testing, even if you forgot the boots in your car in early morning, you can step in, and that's something very crucial. We have the kind of cabrio, hybrid cabrio construction. So we have a tongue in the front, a two-part tongue that gives a lot of walkability to the boots, but also with a good overlap to get this performance. So this boot is made with 3 buckles, integrated walk mechanism, skywalk rubber soles that are ISO touring. And we say that the flex is 130 because it's our stiffer boots in our offer. So for me, I'm coming more for the alpine side, and for those who are like used to alpine ski boots, they will enjoy like the performance of these touring ski boots with a lot of comfort and very easy handling with like 180 buckles to switch from walk to ski mode. And at the same time, it won't be the best boots for walkability. There are other boots that are better, but you have a very good compromise between comfort, walkability, and performance. So as soon as we receive our 25.5 samples, we will be happy that you test it.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it. I've been putting a lot of time in the Mistral XT, Scarpa's new boot, and the construction of the boot seems very similar. In that XT, there's a tongue that goes under the overlap part. I would call it exactly a hybrid cabrio.
Yeah.
And I've been really liking that boot. I don't think your boot is supposed to be quite as stiff as the XT. I mean, the XT is supposed to be like, it's a really stiff boot. But yeah, I'm excited because I've really liked the way that XT feels. There's definitely some of that plush suspension that you get out of a two-piece boot, with all the weight and the walkability and all those things of a good touring boot. So, yeah, we're excited to try it out. Talking to some of the other people who have been here in Courmayeur skiing, I know they've quite enjoyed it. For people who might be kind of planning out their next ski touring boot purchase, can you talk a little bit about the fit of the boot? Like what's the last width and some fit considerations?
Yeah, so the last is 101.5 millimeters, so it's kind of a large last, but you have a boa inner liner, so you can be really close to your foot, and you have a very good power transmission. We are using like carbon fiber into the shell with guillemide for all the other elements, so that makes the boot light. It's 440 grams. That's right, yeah. Yeah.
1,440?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Say, whoa, that's a really light boot.
No, sorry.
For those of you listening to the podcast who maybe can't see out the window here, we're sitting right at the base of Mont Blanc, and there's a helipad just outside the window here. So a helicopter just came through, in case you're wondering what that sound might have been. But sorry, we were talking about the weight of the new boot and the boa liner, I think.
Yeah. So that makes the boots very comfortable, but with a good performance. And really for us, it's a new generation of SCOTT ski boots that's preparing also the future. We have like a big touring offer with Cosmos Celeste ski boots, and that will coming in the next year with that kind of evolution with a large power strap, with a very comfortable last, and with new inner liner solution. So it's really like a first piece of the new ski boots SCOTT generation.
So it sounds like the new boot, if someone has a wider foot, say like maybe the Technica 0G is going to be too narrow, or the Mountain Lab, or even if the Mistral might be a little too narrow, this might be a boot to consider for next year.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, I think I'm excited to get in the boot and just see how it stacks up. There are so many good touring boots on the market right now. You guys have a high bar to meet. That 0G is so good. The Mistralis are excellent. The Mountain Lab still holds up pretty well. Sorry, the S Lab Mountain, they're calling it now. So yeah, definitely excited to do that. Excited to get out in the 95, and really happy to have skied a bunch on the Freetour, the new 105. Like I said, my initial impressions, I'm really impressed by the ski, and I'm excited with what you guys did with the ski. But I wanted to thank you guys for having me out here. I want to thank you for coming and sitting down and chatting with us. And to our listeners out there, stay tuned to the website. We'll have more detailed information on these skis as they start rolling into HQ. But for now, I think we're going to go out and go ski touring, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.